I'm sure you recognize this face. He's one of the most recognized character actors in Hollywood, but not everyone knows his name. His name is Strother Douglas Martin Jr. Who could forget Strother Martin as the prison camp captain in 1967's Cool Hand Luke that starred Paul Newman and George Kennedy. One of the most famous lines in movies is when the captain, played by Strother, says to Luke, that was played by Paul Newman, "What we've got here is failure to communicate." This one line made a star out of a character actor. Strother Martin was born March the 26, 1919 in Kokomo, Indiana. He was the youngest of 3 children born to Strother Martin Sr., a machinist, and Ethel Dunlap Martin. Shortly after Strother's birth, the family moved to Texas but quickly moved back to Indiana. Martin attended high school in Indianapolis, and at the age of 17, he won the National Junior Springboard Diving Championship. He then moved on to the Indianapolis Athletic Club. He won the championship there in 1938. As a member of the swim team at the University of Michigan, he continued to crush all rivals in his high diving events. During World War II, Strother served as a swimming instructor for the United States Navy. And after the war, he moved to California, where he worked odd jobs and started giving lessons as a swimming instructor. His break came when he was hired to give lessons to actress Marion Davies. Then he was hired by one of the biggest stars in Hollywood to give lessons to their children, Charlie Chaplin. This led to minor work as an extra in swimming scenes. The extra bit parts led to TV work. In 1948, his first job was on a TV children's show on KTLA as a leprechaun. And in 1950, Struthers landed a minor, unaccredited part in Asphalt Jungle that starred Sterling Hayden and Gene Hagen. In 1953, Strother Martin Sr., Strother's dad, passed away. And the next year, in 1954, Martin appeared in his first Western, Drum Beat, with Alan Ladd, Charles Bronson, and Audrey Dalton. In 1956, he began playing mostly in Westerns, such as Black Whip with Angie Dickerson. In 1959, the next year, his mother Ethel passed away. That same year, in 59, Struthers will play in his first 6 films with John Wayne, The Horse Soldier. And in 1962, it was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, John Wayne and Lee Marvin. The next year, it was McClintock with John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara, where Martin played an incompetent Indian agent. In 1965, he was again in one of Wayne's movies, The Sons of Katie Elder, with Dean Martin and Martha Howard. In 1966, on the 18th of December, Strother Martin marries actress Helen Measles. They will remain married until his death in 1980. He was 47 and she was 57. They had no children. In 1967, Struthers becomes only one of a few ever to reach stardom status as a character actor when he played the prison captain in Cool Hand Luke. After Luke, Martin was in demand and will eventually appear in 173 films and TV roles. Martin will act in 2 more films with Paul Newman. In 1969, it'll be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. In 1977, it'll be Slap Shot. In 1969 will be his best year. After Butch and Sundance, he will once again appear with John Wayne and Kim Darby in the original True Grit. Also in that year, he will be in The Wild Bunch. When he was not working, he spent his time at home gardening. And also he loved collecting antiques, and he spent much of his time listening to classical music. Strother was good friends with character actor L.Q. Jones. They would try to find parts in the same movies so they could work together. In 1973, while starring in a science fiction picture about snakes, Martin will actually be bit by one. In 1975, it was John Wayne and Katharine Hepburn in Rooster Cogburn. In 1980, he hosted Saturday Night Live, although he was under a doctor's care at the time for heart trouble. Also in 1980, Strother Martin will star in Hot War. It will be his last movie. On August the 1st, 1980, Strother Martin will pass away of a heart attack at the Los Lobos Regional Medical Center in Thousand Oaks, California. Strother Martin, along with his wife Helen, who passed away in 1997, are both interred at the Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Los Angeles. Strother Martin was 61 years old. This is another well-known character actor that happened to be good friends with Strother Martin. His name is L.Q. Jones. L.Q., or just Q as he is called by his friends, was born Justin Ellis McQueen Jr. in Beaumont, Texas on August 19, 1927. His father, Justice McQueen Sr., was a brakeman for the Kansas City Southern Railroad. When L.Q. was 4 years old, he was going to church with his mother, Jessie Stevens McQueen. They were running late when they had an automobile accident. His father had remained at home. The youngster was thrown through the windshield and received injuries, but his mother will never recover from a coma and will pass away on the 7th of October 1931 at the age of 34. After his mother's death, he'll be raised by relatives. He said he had a horse by the time he was 8 or 9 years old and grew up around tough rodeo people, so westerns came natural for him. At the age of 18, Jones entered the U.S. Navy at the close of World War II. After the war, he entered Texas State University at Austin. His roommate for over a year was Fess Parker, who will later become Daniel Boone on television. On October the 18th, 1950, he will marry Netta Sue Lewis. They will have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. In 1973, after 22 years of marriage, they will divorce. After college, when Fess Parker went to Hollywood to try his luck at acting, Jones heard that there was money to be made in Nicaragua ranching and farming. He stayed in contact with his old friend Fess Parker, who was already acting in Hollywood, and in 1954 Parker wrote L.Q. and persuaded him to come to Hollywood. They were beginning a new film, Battle Cry, and thought that L.Q. should try out for the part of Private L.Q. Jones. 2 days after arriving in Hollywood, Jones had the part. He was still using his real name, Justice McQueen. His friend Fess Parker had landed the part of Private Speedy. The studio felt that Justice McQueen should use another stage name, so he used the name of his first character part in Hollywood, L.Q. Jones, although he never legally changed his name from Justice McQueen. In 1955, L.Q. will land a recurring part on the Western TV show Cheyenne with Clint Walker. He also appeared on Gunsmoke and a lot of others. Also in 1955, his father Justin McQueen Sr. will pass away. He'll be buried in his hometown of Beaumont. Jones will state later that he never was really close to his dad. The next year, in 1956, L.Q. will have an unaccredited role in Love Me Tender with Elvis Presley. In 1960, he played Tom Howard, again with Elvis, in Flaming Star. In 62, he will have a recurring role as Andy Belden on TV's The Virginian, starring James Drury. Also, it will be Ride the High Country, the first film with director Sam Peckinpah. He said that Sam Peckinpah was a genius, but he was also crazy. He said that Ride the High Country was the best Western ever made. It starred Randolph Scott, Joel McCrea, Mariette Hartley, and James Drury. Over his career, he will appear in 113 movies and over 400 to 500 TV shows. In 1968, it'll be Hang 'em High with Clint Eastwood and Ingrid Stevens. In 1969, it'll be The Wild Bunch with William Holden and Robert Ryan. Jones will work with his friend again, Strother Martin. The next year, in 1970, is one of my favorite movies, The Ballad of Cable Hogue, with Jason Robards and Stella Stevens. LQ and Strother Martin will again work together. Sam Peckinpah will be the director, and Jones said that Sam fired him 3 times on this film, and he quit twice. In 1975, LQ was the executive producer on The Boy and His Dog that starred Jason Robards, that LQ thought was the greatest actor in Hollywood, and it also starred a young Don Johnson. In 1995, Jones will play a good old boy that uses his political power to teach casino manager Robert De Niro a lesson in Casino. In 1997, he will become Three-Fingered Jacks in Mark of Zorro. LQ Jones has a likable personality, and it comes across on the screen. He is one of Hollywood's best actors. And to my knowledge, he still lives at his hometown in Beaumont, Texas. And his answering machine says this: "I'm around somewhere, probably just counting my money. When I get through, if I'm not too tired, I'll call you back." This is Walter Clarence Taylor, Jr. Moviegoers know him as Dub Taylor. Dub was born February 26, 1907 in Richmond, Virginia, to Walter Taylor Sr. and Minnie Heffernan Taylor. When Dub was around 5 years old, the family moved to Augusta, Georgia, where Walter Sr. worked as a cotton broker. When Dub became a teenager, the family moved to Oklahoma. He attended Classen High School in Oklahoma City. He said he played football and basketball, but didn't learn a thing. He made $18 per week on a paper route so that he could pay for a xylophone that he learned to play along with the French harp. Dub started performing on the stage at the local theater and eventually traveling with a vaudeville act. Dub had 2 older sisters, Margaret and Maud, and a brother named George, and a younger sister, Edna Faye. Some of his relatives still live in Oklahoma. In 1930, Dub Taylor married Florence Gertrude Heffernan. It will become a lifetime romance. The next year, in 1931, their first child will be born, the daughter, Faden Taylor. To my knowledge, Faden Taylor Tarp still lives in the Los Angeles area. In 1938, Dub will hear that the Oscar-winning director, Frank Capra, was looking for a xylophone player for his new movie, You Can't Take It With You, that starred Jimmy Stewart and Jean Arthur. Capra said that he was interviewing xylophone players when this funny-looking, Southern-talking, infectious-smiling man walked in and said, "I'm Dub Taylor." Capra asked, "Have you ever acted before?" And Taylor's answer was, "No, sir, I ain't. But I played in the Rose Bowl for the Alabama football team. Does that count? He then did a ridiculous rendition of Dinah on the xylophone that won him the part. Capra took immediate liking to Dub and even helped in his career. When Capra heard that Dub and Florence was having another baby and was in financial difficulty, he put Dub on the salary before shooting even started on the movie. Dub always said that Frank Capra was one of the kindest persons that he ever knew. In the next few years, through the 40s and early 50s, Dub will become a sidekick in B westerns to such stars as Don Redberry, Bill Elliott, Russell Hayden, Jimmy Wakely, Charles Starrett, and Tex Ritter, and over some 50 B westerns. Through his entire career, Dub Taylor will appear in over 500 movies and TV shows. Way too many to name. He will appear in everything from Gunsmoke to The Range Rider with Jack Mahoney and Dick West. In 1965, he became a part of director Sam Peckinpah's stock company in Major Dundee and The Wild Bunch. In 1967, Dub will play Ivy Moss, the father of one of the friends of Bonnie and Clyde. He will be on the Andy Griffin Show several times and will play the preacher that marries Charlene Darling and Dud Wash. Tragedy will strike on October the 10th, 1987. Dub will lose his wife of 56 years. Florence had suffered a stroke. She could walk, he said, but sometimes did not recognize him. He said that the first time she said, "You're not my husband," he said, "I broke out in a cold sweat." "Oh, yes, I am," I said. "I've just got uglier over 50-something years." And then she must have recognized me, he said, because she smiled and said, "No, you're not ugly." Dub Taylor said I could not stand the thought of her in a nursing home or someplace. So I kept her at home and spent as much time with her as I could. He told a reporter that he would never marry again and that he kept his wife's pictures all over the house. "I guess that's love," he said. In 1991, Dub will appear with his son Buck Taylor in Conager with Sam Elliott and Catherine Ross. Dub Taylor and his son Buck are the only father-son team to be inducted into the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. In 1994, Dub will appear in his last movie as a hotel clerk in Maverick with Mel Gibson and James Garner. That same year, on September the 9th, 1994, Dub entered the medical center in Westlake Village, California, with congestive heart failure. Dub Taylor will pass away less than a month on October the 3rd, 1994. His ashes scattered near Westlake Village. He was 87 years old. He once said that acting was one of the most embarrassing business in the world. You never know when you're going to be able to eat again.